everybody, and welcome to an episode of Groom U. So today, this episode is going to be with Dr. George about rabies, Parvo, and distemper. And I'm back with Nancy again. We're going to talk about neutering, spading, and puppies again. This is her puppy. She got a new puppy now, so stay tuned, and I hope you've been enjoying her episodes of behavioral training. Thank you. Here's Dr. George's surprise. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, you can't look.
Stuart, get out of the way.
Okay.
You
All
tell me
right.
when.
He can open his eyes.
Look at my eyes. Okay. Whoa! You made that?
I made the horse, but Larry made the frames.
That's amazing.
And it's made out of birch tree.
Yes. Larry's handy. What? How did you make the horse?
I made it out of diamond.
Thank you. It's awesome.
No hugging, huh?
I know.
He can hug me, but not while we're social distancing.
Air hug, right?
Yeah.
Air hug.
So
I love
Yeah.
it. We're gonna hang that up. It's
he's
awesome.
my favorite pet.
Thank you very much.
So-
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
I've been dying to get it done to give it to you.
Yeah, super cool. It took a long time.
Well, because we were quarantined.
Yeah, that was the truth.
Probably took maybe a month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah, super cool.
But when I saw it, I'm like, who can I give it to? And then I knew you did horses, so.
Yeah, perfect. It's gonna look great in the barn, I think, actually.
Yeah,
Looks awesome. Fun.
so.
Sweet, thank you. It's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
No.
I'm glad you got to bring it up today.
Yeah,
worked out
well, I've
good.
been dying to get rid of it. Not get rid of it, but to give it to you for a gift.
Oh, Larry's pretty handy too, though. That's a nice frame.
And then he kept telling me about the birds. I'm like, what do you want birds for? And then I said, what are those things sticking out? Get rid of that. And he said, just give me the birds. So.
That's great. Thank you. It's awesome.
I like the
So-
birds.
You like
like
the
the
birds?
birds?
Yeah, cool. It's really cool.
So
Maybe would be
yeah.
terrified of it.
So I didn't know where you'd put it. I
Oh, we'll
didn't
put it
know
in the
if you'd
barn.
put
Yeah,
it-
we've got a great spot in the barn.
You have a nice
Yeah.
spot. It won't get ruined in the barn?
Maybe I'll put it upstairs. Not really. I mean, the barn's pretty safe, but
Yeah.
it does get dustier down there. Maybe we'll keep it up top. We'll find a good spot.
Yeah.
Sure, we'll put it.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. You can feel the little
Yeah, I
thing.
saw that. Yeah,
Yeah.
super cool.
Larry likes it because if you put it in the light, you can see through it.
Oh, really?
If you have it in the sun, you can see through it. But I said, you got to put it on a wall.
Well, that's what
Like if you have it in the sun, you can see through it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's pretty cool like that,
Feel
but yeah, it's gonna have to be on a wall, though, I think.
Yeah, well, you can't hang it up in the air. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So you have you're on call this weekend, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
So
We are.
while we're here, I want you
This is a new
This is a
portion.
new portion of
Yeah,
Groom U.
yeah.
Have you seen the videos I've done?
No, I do not.
Oh, your dad's a story. Now we're doing a new one. So I want you to explain to me the last time about rabies. So because a lot of people are upset because when they hear whether the dog is 1 pound or 100 pound, they get the same vaccine, and people don't want to give the vaccine
Can't
because
believe that, right?
yeah, and made it.
Right. So it's all based on immunology. It's based on the fact that the immune system has to have enough of the vaccine to make a response, to become immunized. So for the same reason that I get the flu vaccine and she gets the flu vaccine, which is exactly the same, because our immune systems are exactly the same. So a 5-pound Yorkie and a 50-pound Lab both need the same amount of rabies vaccine to generate an immune response. So without and so if somebody gives half of a rabies vaccine, it's in essence like not giving one, because that dog will not become immunized to the vaccine. So it's in essence useless, which is why it's against the law for a veterinarian to do that, because in essence then they're not protecting that animal. It's like not giving it at all. And so although it seems strange to give the same amount, their immune system requires that amount too. And then again, we have to rely on the vaccine companies to have done the studies to say we know how much is needed in that vial for them to, the immune system to be recovered. Does it take less? Maybe they got away with less, but they want to make sure everyone's protected, so they're going to give the right amount.
Okay. What about a horse?
Same thing. So we give the same amount to a foal that we give to a horse. Just
So
we give
the
a
horse
full-size
gets
horse.
the same dose as a dog?
So, we use a different vaccine. So no, they get 2 cc's. But now actually we've changed to a new vaccine and they get 1 cc as well. Yes. So
I
it's
didn't know
all
if a horse got the same as a dog.
they get a different vaccine. So it can be anywhere between 1 cc and 2 cc's. It's the
Yeah,
same.
I was just curious about that. Yeah.
But the same size foal, so a horse, a 2,000 pound draft horse is going to get the same as a 150 pound foal.
Okay.
You know.
So where, I have a question where my dog was allergic to it. Somebody told me, and it didn't make sense, and maybe you got understand it. They said it was the egg in the vaccine. What does she mean by an egg?
So you can't just give them the rabies virus. Obviously, that doesn't work. So you have to have the immune system. They have to make the vaccine, and so a lot of times they will inject it into something. And even for humans, for the flu vaccine, they do eggs actually, and there are places that do nothing but generate millions and millions of eggs for vaccine making.
So what is
the
egg though? It's
they're trying to purify it. So I think part of the problem is that there are dogs that are allergic to not the vaccine to the rabies. They're allergic to whatever's in it, whether it's a piece of it, and they try to purify all that out because they don't want reactions. Because they need a small reaction so that you respond to it, but a big reaction means you feel terrible. Which is why there was always vaccine trials, because they got to figure out just the right amount. And so they try to purify out as much as they can, so it's not in there, but there's always a trace of that. And so could you react to the egg? Could you react to what they call an adjuvant, which is something that they put in there? In the old days, they used aluminum, pieces of aluminum, but they found that caused cancer, so they don't do that anymore. So most of the time now, they use innocuous things that don't cause a problem. But some dogs can have an adverse reaction to those things, and thus they act allergic to it.
Yeah, but when she said egg, I pictured like a chicken egg.
They do inject the virus into eggs. That's how they grow the virus. It is. They're using eggs. It is an automated system that injects rabies into the egg so that it can populate itself, and then they kill it, and then they get all that out of there and they use the vaccine that way. So it is egg. It's actually... Now, they're not all made that way anymore. Some of the newer vaccines are made without having to do that.
So now I was told you can reverse it. How do you reverse it?
Reverse.
Because when my dog was really deathly ill, they said if I got him back to the vet in time, you could give him something.
So you can give them epinephrine to, in essence, or steroids to stop the allergic reaction.
Oh,
Yes,
okay. Because I didn't get him to the vet in time. They said you can.
You can, if it happens fast enough, you can stop it. You can give something to stop it, yeah.
Because now they say give him Benadryl. So what does Benadryl do to stop that?
Well, Benadryl in theory is an antihistamine, and the histamine, it's like getting stung by a bee. It's not the sting, it's the reaction, and so you give Benadryl, which may, in theory, prevent your histamine cells from being released from cells, and thus not having an allergic reaction.
Good. So this will be good for people, because a lot of people don't want it.
No, I know.
Well, it seems like a lot of problem is the poodle. Why is the poodle seem to be having this issue?
I don't
It's
know.
just
There obviously is some, I guess you assume that there is some allergic reaction that occurs that's related to most of them. I guess we don't know. I don't know that I would say that I've seen that, though.
So far, the people that I've talked to, it's been a lot of poodles. The breeders are telling people now, don't give it a poodle. I just got a lady
Probably
today.
it's illegal not to. I don't know how you get away with rabies not doing it. Other vaccines, you would have that discussion, but it's required here.
Say Massachusetts. Because I had a standing come in today, and the breeder told them. So,
It's low risk, but...
well, I told her she's supposed to come see you. She wants Titter, and I said you do Titter, but I told her she should do the shots and then do the boosters and then
Because she's a puppy.
Titter. The dog's I think 9 months, 8 months. I told her she should.
So she's not doing any vaccines.
don't know what she's doing. They got the puppy and then this virus came, so she's supposed to come.
They have to be careful because Distemper and Parvo and those things.
Yeah,
are still out there.
I tell people
Still
they
out
should
there.
at least do the vaccine
Right, once
and then
titer.
titer after.
Right.
I say do the vaccines and do the boosters, so
Yes.
you know, and you're not spending your money.
Right.
At least if you know you did the vaccine and did the booster, now you know you definitely got the vaccines in the dog,
No,
especially with the booster.
right, and then you can titer as much as you want, but I mean it's out there, so it's crazy. You're running a risk not vaccinating your puppies. For sure.
Yeah, well, especially the distemper is the worst one out of them. The Parvo, there's a cure for the Parvo, right?
Yeah, but
They get deathly.
They get really sick, and still a good portion, half of them will die.
Well, if they're a little puppy, they can die from it. If
We had an adult, a 12-year-old dog, get it a couple of years ago who barely made it.
But how did he get it if he was?
Unvaccinated.
Oh,
They
he was
rescued it.
never
They
back.
rescued a dog. So they rescued him. They didn't know his vaccine history. Then they rescued a puppy who had Parvo, and gave it to the big dog. The puppy actually did really well, and it took us 7 days and transfusions to get the big dog to survive.
So the dog never was vaccinated.
They know it. They don't know. I mean, they adopted him. They didn't know, but they assumed he hadn't been done in a long time. Yeah, it didn't have enough of a titer to protect him.
Because I know they say, well, 7 years. They say you can go.
It depends. It depends on the dog.
Yeah, well, that's why you titer and see where they are.
Yeah.
So the person that had the dog never bothered to.
Never either titered or never vaccinated.
See, at least I titer and find
Right.
out where the
Right. So
where
if
their
there's a
immune
problem, then you
system
deal with
is.
it. Right.
Because people don't understand what titer is either. If you want to explain what titering is.
Well, it's in essence testing the antibody levels in the dog to see if they have a protective level. So how you did the vaccine work. And they've done enough studies to know that at certain levels it works great. In other levels you're not going to mount enough of a response and you could succumb to the disease. And so you're right, the vaccine, we use a vaccine that's labeled for 3 years, so we don't even titer for 3 years, and then you titer, and if it's still good, well then you don't have to get the vaccine yet. And some dogs will go 6 years, 7 years, and then the number comes down enough that you have to vaccinate, but it just depends.
Okay. So this is Nancy, and today we're going to discuss spading, neutering, and then your puppy.
So, like you said, we're going to discuss some of the concerns that people have had and have addressed just problems that they've had or misunderstandings or just general questions. And of course, the first one we're going to talk about is spaying and neutering. And of course, spaying is that's what we do to a female, and neutering we call it for the male. Why? No reason. It's the same thing. You're removing the reproductive organs. The important part of understanding that is why we do it. It's for a male. It's very simple, and usually the testicles are external. It's just a snip and remove them. Not a big deal. Why do it? People don't usually want to do it. Usually men don't want it done. But it's the reason for doing it is to protect the dog from very, very likely health issues in the future. It can be testicular infections, it can be testicular cancer, it can be prostate cancer. So all the things that men have as they get older, if the dogs still have them, they are subject to those same health issues. So to keep the dog healthy is number one reason for spaying. For neutering, same thing. For the female, it's so that they won't come in season and bleed in your house. That's usually why people do females. It is a more involved surgery, but it's not, the doctors are so good at it, it causes very little problem. However, leaving the uterus intact can give you uterine cancer, uterine infections of all kinds, and of course, cervical cancer, same as people. So to keep our dogs healthy is why we want to make sure that we spay and neuter our dogs when they're young, when it's much safer for them to have anesthesia. They bounce right back from it, but it keeps them healthy. The biggest problem that people don't relate to until it is a problem, and that's with males. And that is because having testosterone does cause problems with can cause problems with their personalities. It can make them very aggressive because they want to be the top of the pack. They are more likely to go after other dogs to establish themselves as the machos. Also, the mocking, where they actually are lifting their legs to mock where they live, which is very possibly inside your house, which of course nobody wants a dog being in their house. By the time, if you don't neuter the dog when they're young, before the testosterone really kicks into their system, if you wait until it is there, until they're the teenagers, then it is now gone from instinct to up in their brain, and now it's very difficult to change them. And so lifting their leg will probably very likely continue unless there's very aggressive training, lifting their legs in the house. So the best way to avoid all these problems, health issues and behavioral issues, is just to get them spayed and neutered when they're young. Okay, so the next issue that I hear all the time is with new puppies. I want to explain something to you that I think people don't relate to dogs. We know with humans that there are, when it comes to intelligence, that there's the average, which is most of us. There's the super smart, the Einstein people, and there's the people that aren't as intelligent. Okay. We know that with people, we all have different personalities. Some are more extreme than others. We hear about the A-type personality, etc. The same is true with dogs. There's different intellectual levels in dogs. There's the average. There's the really bright, smart dogs, and then below average. When it comes to living with a dog, you have to decide what you want. And most people, what they want is a dog that's of average intelligence. Why? Because they're smart enough to figure out what's going on in life, how to solve some problems, and they're usually easiest to train and cause the least amount of problems. Golden retrievers are a perfect example of that, how people can just live with them. They don't have to, they should know what they're doing in raising them, but it's not as crucial as, say, a very intelligent Westie. Westies are very intelligent. The more intelligent the dog, the harder they are to train. You have to be on their case. Now, when we talk about also, not just intelligence, but we have to talk about their general personalities, which varies from breed to breed, and it also varies within each breed. So for instance, we know, everyone knows what a golden retriever is like. Very loving, extremely eager to please. So even though they're not super smart dogs usually, they are smart enough that they can learn. And they want to learn because they want to please their owner. We have dogs like the German Shepherd. We know is a very intelligent dog. They can problem solve very difficult level of problems. But why are they less? They are fairly easy, not easy, but fairly easy to train because they still want to please us. But they're intelligent enough that when they see something that's not right, even if the owner is telling him to do it, they may not do it just because the owner said so. I'm going to give you an example. In obedience training, for the ring to get a title in obedience, one of the exercises is where they have to come right into you. And when they come into you, they have to sit straight to get a perfect score. Well, I had trained German Shepherds. And what I found with my German Shepherds is that even though they were trained to come and sit straight in front of me, when we're in the ring and they start coming into me, a person walks behind them. Now, what is the German Shepherd's job? Is protection. So they have to scan, they have to know what's going on in order to protect their owner. There was no way that I could get that German Shepherd without breaking his spirit, which I would never do. And then it might not work anyway, but there's no way I could get him to come and sit perfectly straight because he had to turn his head enough to see what that person was doing behind him. So that's an example of a dog that is well trained. He wants to please, but is intelligent enough to know that there are times where you don't do exactly what you're told. And then you have dogs like my Westies and I love the last statement that I read that somebody knew Westies very well. This person knew Westies so well, and they wrote, and I'm going to read it, exactly what a Westie is. It says, they love their two-legged companions and are generally willing to please them. ... as long as they think it's a good idea. In other words, they are stubborn enough and smart enough to know whether they want to do it or not. Where the German Shepherd really wants to do it is really pleasing its owner, but it knows it has a job. With the Westie, it's, I don't feel like doing it today, so it's not a good idea today. So that's why you need to understand the different personalities, different intelligences, so that you can understand and train according to what kind of dog you're dealing with. Okay, one more thing about spaying a female. It doesn't happen too often, but it does happen, and when it does, it can have very severe consequences. An unspayed female can actually go into a false labor where the body actually thinks that the dog is pregnant. They can develop milk, they can go into labor in the extreme cases, and if they're not spayed or bred actually, but spaying is the best solution for this, they could get very sick and it has been known that they've died from it. So the health issues can be so easily eliminated just by spaying or neutering your dog. You're keeping them healthy, you're keeping them happy.